Okay, welcome to the first ever Jenner show, and my guest today is Amy Crimson. So, tell me about yourself, Amy.
So my name is Amy Crimson. My real name is Cassandra Alicia Jenner, and I've been wrestling at Battle Arts Academy for almost 3 years now. And my coach is Anthony Corelli, aka Santino Morella.
That's cool. So, Santino Marella, he's one of the better WWE superstars of the past. He's won a
Yeah.
lot of championships. He's one of the very, very well respected wrestlers. So, yeah, how long have you been training for at Battle Arts?
Um. So I started when I was 19. So this June, upcoming June, would be mark 4 years since I started training. And yeah,
Well, 4 years, but that's also with the ongoing pandemic and
yeah,
everything. So it's probably been like a little bit less, but like you still know everything. You know what you're doing. You've still been doing
yeah.
some studying and stuff like that. So yeah. So tell me, how does it feel to be training at Battle Arts Academy?
I think Battle Arts Academy is amazing. I think it's been like a family, like it's basically like your own kind of outside family.
Yeah.
We help each other out, like we always have each other's backs, and it's just overall a great experience. So yeah, I love training at Battle Arts Academy.
Oh, that'd be great. I've been to Battle Arts Academy. It's a really good facility, and so yeah, a little bit of backstory of how you started wrestling. That would be great.
So I was 19 and I actually wanted to be a wrestler since I was 8 years old. I saved up my money, graduated high school, and then I think 2 years after I graduated high school, I decided to. My friend actually, Elena, said that she was training to be a wrestler at Battle Arts Academy at work. So I was
That's
like,
cool.
hey, like let me check this out. So I ended up saving up money and heading to the school, like Battle Arts Academy, and then there was Toy that was there. He doesn't train us anymore over there, but he went back to Japan and he was there and he gave me like an orientation and it was hard, like it was like 100 squats the first day and I didn't really work out. I
He's
was
one
kind of
of the
like,
trainers that trained Oscar, correct?
yes. So he was, yeah, so he trained a lot of like
He must have
the,
worked your ass hard.
yeah, he worked my ass hard the first day. It's not what I expected, and it was like a lot of hard work. But then he let me. He seen the heart that I had, so he's like, he promised me, like, well, I made a promise with him if I worked out and like I worked hard, he would let me in the wrestling program. So that was kind of like a backstory. And then I think the first day of wrestling practice, I met Anthony, and he was really cool. So yeah, so
Seems like you have a lot of experience, to be honest. Another question I have for you is, who's your favorite person to train with that you've trained with before?
like in battle arts in general, or like my
Just in general.
coaches. In general, well, my favorite like to train with is the girls, obviously, and my guy best friend Christos. He like started I think a couple months after I did, or like a year into it, and we've been besties ever since. And he's been like my wrestling bestie. That we do like intergender matches, and it's awesome.
So how does it feel like when you wrestle in front of like a live crowd? Because I know like a lot of other promotions, like when they do like some type of shows or whatever, it's mostly just like training. It's not really live shows. How did it feel to like wrestle in front of live crowds?
So my first match, I felt like I was gonna shit my pants. Ain't gonna lie, it was actually really scary. Um,
PG. This is PG.
Honestly, the it's kind of like nerve wracking because you don't want to mess up in front of a live crowd and like everybody can know when you mess up. But when you start doing more repetitions of it, because like at Battle Arts we had like a Rising Stars show, so Battle Arts Rising Stars, which was like every Saturday of the month. So we would get like say like 12 shows within a year to get repetitions. So it's like it's very hard in the beginning, but then you start to get used to it and you start to build confidence. And
Of course.
I think the only time I literally gained so much confidence was when I main evented with Rebel, um, Allison Kay, and Casey Spinelli at Revolution.
Yeah, I was there for that match. That was an amazing match. You were the main event, right? That
Yes,
was
I was
when you
10.
were Battle Arts Women's Champion.
Yes.
I remember that. So, another thing I have is, you got any funny stories you want to share about your training, or any stories about wrestling in general that you have?
Hmm. See, that's a hard one because at Battle Arts Academy, there's so many funny moments. Um, but I
So
remember
I
we
believe
were
you've been there for so long, you met all the people. I'm pretty sure that eventually there'd be some funny moments.
There was a really funny moment when so there was like these couple of guys that were like basically saying that they wanted to fight. So Anthony was like, "Okay, let's do a shoot fight."
We're
So
not gonna name any names here, just to save people.
so
I
there
did.
was base so basically this was like I think like the first year that I started, and we were preparing for a show, like we were putting together the card, and some guys were like, "Oh, I want to fight," and then like they were saying something like they couldn't fight or they couldn't beat them or whatever. So Anthony's like, "Okay, shoot fight right now." So two
Shoot
guys
fight.
in the
So
middle
like a
of
real
the mat,
actual like fist fight.
not like a fist fight, but like a submission fight,
Oh
like to
yeah,
knock somebody out.
that makes more
So
sense.
they go to the mat and we're all just circling and we're like, fight, 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 fight. It was turned into like a little fight club. And it was I think that was the best like moment that I had so far. But there's many more, but I can't remember. But those that was the most memorable moment that I can remember.
That's a pretty good story, to be honest. So, another question I have for you is, how does it feel to be part of the Battle Arts family? Like when you go backstage, is it more like everyone to themselves, or is it kind of just like everyone's together as like a family?
I think everybody has their own like obviously there's our own little cliques that we like stick together, but I just feel like we're all just respectful to one another and like we're all like one giant family and like we're all friends and like there's not really that much drama going on backstage. It's just mostly like we just look out for each other and if we see somebody who needs help, we help them out kind of thing.
All right. So, another question for you is, what are your goals for the future, and what are your goals outside of wrestling?
Okay, so within battle arts, I did train in judo and I did obtain my green belt. So one of the goals that I would hope for is to get my black belt in judo so I can cross train and continue cross training. Um, I also recently got certified to be a personal trainer and I'm going to get certified to be a nutritionist as well. So those are one of the goals outside of wrestling.
Make good
My
money as a personal trainer.
So my goals for wrestling is to at least wrestle for one of the big companies or at least to get signed and make enough money to survive on. So like
Oh
for
yeah.
work for the WWE, New Japan, Ring of Honor, AEW, like all those promotions, just to work for them so that I can like make money and survive off of it so that I can make my dream come true. So that's the goal.
So what would happen if like you weren't able to sign one of those big promotions? Like what would you do if you couldn't sign with those big promotions?
Well, I would hope that I would at least make a name for myself on the indies, like all the indie promotions. At least if I'm making money off of wrestling, then I'm happy.
Yeah.
Like doing indie shows every weekend and like basically just making a name for myself outside of the WWE or any of the other bigger brands.
So basically you want it just to be like some type of job.
Yes,
So as long
that
as you
pays
make
well.
some type of money, you're good.
Yeah.
All right, I see that. I see that. So yeah, goals outside of wrestling that you have?
My goals outside of wrestling is to be probably just as successful in the ring than outside of life. So like make sure that like I have like a proper job with personal training and nutritionist, possibly make my own business, and then also on the outside get my black belt in judo and like basically do possibly judo tournaments when this pandemic's over so I can obtain like a higher belt.
Makes sense. So another question I have for you is, what is your favorite match that you've ever wrestled in?
My favorite match.
Yeah, or it could be like favorite match type you've had. Doesn't matter. It's up to you.
Um, my favorite match that I wrestled would have to be the Rebel and the Casey Spinelli and Allison K match because that one I was like in the ring with all these vets and I was the youngest because I'm only 22, turning 23. So it was a great experience because it
Oh,
gave
fun
me
for a 22-year-old.
yeah, it gave me a lot of experience and it actually gained my confidence more because I didn't know what I was getting into. So it basically opened my eyes that I can do whatever I want in the ring and I
Oh,
don't have to be scared.
because being around all those veterans, it's like you're not like basically you're safe in a way
Mm-hmm.
because like just say like I know like because you're newer to the wrestling, so if you screwed
Yeah.
up, it's like they can cover for you. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Kind of.
because I was considered green. So it's like it was going in there with all these vets was very scary. And no lie, I was backstage and I felt like I was gonna shit my pants again. It was a very humbling experience and also cool because then it actually got my name out there more. So that's why it's my favorite match because it gets me recognized more. So
Oh,
yeah.
that's pretty good. So, what's your favorite singles match you ever wrestled in?
My favorite
I know
singles
you've had a
match.
lot of singles matches, so
My
say.
favorite singles match would have to be for when I won the Battle Arts Women's Championship. It was one of the matches where it was more advanced than I was used to, and it basically allowed me to push the limits than what I was comfortable with. So that's why I think that's one of my favorite singles matches and one of my best accolades, kind of thing.
So you gotta tell me, man, how was it when you won that championship?
When they say you get emotional, it's the god honest truth. You you can't control yourself because in the moment you work so hard for the opportunity, and then when you finally get it, it's like a sign of relief that you, oh my god, I actually obtained this, I did it. And like when they say you cry, it's not even sad tears, it's just happy because you finally like got the opportunity that you've been
Of
dreaming of
course.
and working hard for.
That's how you felt when you won the title.
Yeah. If you look back on my YouTube video, you'll probably see me like crying
Go
because
ahead,
I'm so
plug.
happy.
Plug your YouTube.
It's just basically everything's Amy Crimson.
Yeah. So, how did you think that your title reign went, and what was your favorite title defense?
Now, I would hopefully I would have believed if COVID never like happened, I probably would still be championed.
Yeah.
Because sadly, my title reign lasted from I think November to September, I think I believe because of COVID. Because like for like I think a year and a half, we haven't been able to wrestle.
Yeah.
So I basically had to vacate the title. But I think overall, it was a great learning experience, a great opportunity, and I'm just glad that my coach chose me to basically like he basically gave me the torch and like okay, run with it. And like I think it was a great experience. It gave me opportunities. It also gave me an opportunity to wrestle with veterans. So it was just overall a great learning experience, and I hope for more learning experiences in the future. To be honest.
Couldn't have said it better myself. So, yeah, is there any other like things like rivalries that you have? Any stories that you want to share?
Currently,
Rivalries that you
currently there was a rivalry that was ongoing with Bianca Corelli because since I lost the title, Bianca Corelli gained the title. So I'm hoping that when we come back to wrestling and the pandemic's over, that I can at least continue that rivalry and possibly gain back the title with Bianca.
of course.
Um, I think my favorite rivalry though has to be with Bianca Corelli. I don't know. It's just she pushes my gears like just it's just different compared to everybody else.
It's like it's like that Rock versus Stone Cold type feel.
Like she's my Trish and I'm Lita
Yeah,
kind of
like
thing.
that type of feel, like Trish and Lita and all those type of feels. Basically,
Yeah,
like when you guys are in the ring, it's just magic, you know. So it's like she pushes you to get to your best, but y'all just hate each other so
yeah.
much, in theory. So yeah, is there anything else you want to share?
Um, I don't know. It's just something that inspired me to do wrestling was like before when I was 8 years old. You're gonna laugh, but the first match that I actually watched was with my brother, and it was an ECW like show. It was MVP and CM Punk, and
Yeah.
I don't know why that intrigued me and my brother, but for some reason we were hooked. And then we saw the Undertaker, and we're like, okay, we're watching this. This is like I'm into it. And then like I watched it and I watched it, and then the 8 year old me was like, I want to do this for a living. But then my parents were like, you need a real dream. You need a real job. You can't do that. And then fast forward, they thought it was just a phase. I graduate high school and I'm like, I want to do wrestling. And they're like,
I was wrestling out of high school. I'm doing wrestling.
that's all I said in high school. And it was funny because some of my teachers and some of my like my former high school student, like colleague or whatever you call them
Classmates, whatever.
or whatever, I don't really care. But they were basically like when we would sit and be like, what do you want to do when you grow up? I'm like, I want to be a WWE superstar. The teachers, the other students, they laugh at me. And they'd be like,
Well, I
you
mean,
can't.
when you really look at it, look at you. You're not the typical WWE superstar type. You're short, like, you know what I mean? Like, but I feel like honestly, if you could just do it, you know what I mean? Like, break boundaries, break the barriers. Just say like, you don't need to be like 6 feet tall, amazing, looking great to be a wrestler. You can just be yourself and be a great
Well,
wrestler.
if you look at the women's division, like from like 2011 to now, you have Alexa Bliss, you have AJ Lee that were
Exactly.
smaller, and you have Selena Vega that was really tiny. So it's like there is a chance for me. But the thing is that everybody, like when I was in high school, would be like, "You're not going to be a wrestler. You need a real job." So fast forward,
You're just like, this is my real job.
this is a real job. So like basically, fast forward, I go back to Ascension with my boyfriend Harry, and we see a couple of the teachers, and they know who I am because they know my last name, and they're like, "Oh, so what are you doing?" And I'm like, "Professional wrestling." I was like, waiting. I was like, waiting. I'm like, this is my chance. And Mr. Rulli and Miss Brown were like, Cassandra, what are you doing right now? And I'm like, professional wrestling. They're like, Olympic style wrestling? I'm like, no, professional wrestling,
Scared.
WWE style. And they're like, I thought you'd be into cosmetology or like a nurse or something. Like, no, professional wrestling. And I'm the current Battle Arts Women's Champion. And they're like, so it's always great. And then like my family is very supportive. Like whenever like other family members or like friends of the family, like they're always like, "Oh, what's Cassandra doing?" And they're like, "Oh, professional wrestling. My daughter's a professional wrestler." So it's like it's great. It's honestly like I love professional wrestling because it gets me to be like out there and like I get to not be myself for like when I'm in the ring, and like I basically get to be a charade. So like another funny story was how Amy Crimson got created.
Oh, here we go. This is probably gonna be a good story.
Okay, so I was basically like I was a little like chubby, and I
Oh,
had never had a match. I had never had a match. Okay, so I never had a match before, and
okay.
I was put against a really really like tall girl that's like she's like awesome, like she's like jacked and like she's in great shape, and her
You're
name's
just in a
Natalie.
no.
Her name's Natalie, and she was nice to me ever since I started. And like she actually like I was a little intimidated by her at first because like she was like so tall and like she's like, "Hi, how are you? What are you doing?" And I'm like,
I'm
"Oh."
gonna get my ass.
I'm like, "Oh, I'm doing professional." She's like, "Really? Okay, cool." So she was like really happy and she was really nice. So fast forward, it's like the first Battle Arc show. I think it was like Summer Sizzle in August, and like
That was
I
like 2018, right?
yeah, this is 2018. So I'm like, so there was like a kid's birthday party, and Anthony's like, "Okay, you've been training for like 2 months. Are you okay with wrestling?" And I'm like, "Well, I mean, I know a good amount." And then he's like, "Okay." So
Talk
he's like,
about
"Okay."
throwing you to the wolves, eh?
So I'm like, "Okay." No, he's like, he throws me in, and he's like, "Okay, so you need a name." And I'm like, "I don't have a name. I've only been wrestling for 2 months." He's like, "You never thought of a name?" And I'm like, "No." So then he said something like, Amy something, like a white girl name. And I'm like, okay, Amy. And then like the kids liked it. They're like, Amy, Amy, Amy. So it stuck. So then the same night, I was actually on the show, and I was in a tag match. I think with Nessa Love, Bianca Budice, and I think Natalie.
Okay.
Mind you, I was a babyface, so I was like, okay, I got this. So comes the announcer comes, and the announcer was Bianca Corelli at the time, and she comes up to me. She's like, "You don't have a name." I'm like, "Oh, I don't have a name." And then she's like, "What did Anthony give you?" And I'm like, "He gave me Amy." She's like, "Yeah, but you need a last name." And I was wearing crimson lipstick at the time.
Oh my god, really? That's how you got your crimson name?
And she was like, "Okay, we need to think of a last name. Amy, what rhymes with Amy? Crimson." I'm like, "Okay, that's good. That's good. Let's keep it." So my character was I was a crazy like at first I was just like a basic baby face, like a generic baby face. And
Which
then
is most
after
when they first start.
yeah. And then fast forward like a couple months later, I was turned heel. I just had a magical heel turn, no explanation. But then I had no explanation. And then he's like, okay, you're gonna be in a tag match with Bianca Budice. I'm like, okay. And then Bianca's crazy. So then I had to switch up my character and be like a total psycho crazy person. So I'm like, okay. So then I was
I can
feeling
see
it.
you go.
So I was feeling it and everything. And then like for some reason I felt like I was plateauing and I felt like I couldn't like use the character to my advantage. And plus on top of that, I didn't
I
want to take
just thought that you were just stuck in a way.
yeah. And I didn't want to stay as a character like or steal Bianca's character or whatever because that was her own unique character. So I'm like,
Yes.
okay. So I go to Anthony and I'm like, Anthony, I need a character. And he's like, okay, where are you from? I'm like, Malton. He's like, Malton, Mississauga? And I'm like,
God.
yeah. So he's like, oh, that's so hood. You could be a hood character. You could be ratchet. And I'm like, I thought about it because he heard me speaking some type of slang. Because like in Malton, we have some type of slang, like
Oh,
Toronto slang, right? So he heard me
it's like
speak some slang.
flying with a lisp in a way.
Yeah. So it's like, so he heard me speak some slang, and he's like, "Oh, I like that. You gangster. You a
God.
gangster." So then he's like, "You know what? You should be from the streets of Malton." And I was like, "You know what?" And then promo class happened, and then I started to like do the character, and I actually started to enjoy it. And then surprisingly, I brought the character to life, like at
Yeah.
like a Battle Arts Rising Star show. And then all of a sudden, I was heel, yet people were cheering me. And they're like, "Oh shit, this chick's cool." And then like, "This chick's badass." I came out with like a bandana, like a snap. Now I come out with a snapback, but I might bring the bandanas back, make it
Okay.
a trademark. But I came out with a bandana, and then it just clicked. And then like that's how I won the title. And I feel like if I never changed my character, I probably would have never got the chance to be like a champion. That's my opinion.
That's basically what usually happens, to be honest, because when you get a character and then like it's not you're plateauing, you just don't give it your all, in my opinion. And then like eventually it just like oh, my phone went off. Sorry. So basically, what I was saying was that I feel like when you don't want to be a character, it's like you don't have that mindset. You're just like this. I can take this character as far as possible. So like
Mhm.
when you're doing that like crazy psychotic thing, you're just like I don't know where this can go, kind of thing. So it's like when you transition to like from the streets of Malton, you kind of like said maybe I can take this far because I can either be like a tough ass, like a badass like girl, or I can be like just really tough and then like be a baby face fighting for like my family or something like that. So it's
Mhm.
like that's what you could make a lot more sense out of like that type of gimmick, in my opinion.
And I don't know, it's just when I started that character, I was looking at promos of John Cena when he was like basic thugonomics and like looking at like Eddie Guerrero's promos, like the lie, cheat, and steal kind of concept. But I didn't want to be like a basic
Copycat.
version, like a copycat of them. I wanted to make my own. So then it's like the time came where I was supposed to do like a promo, like on Nessa Love to
Oh god.
basically. So
First real promo, eh?
So this was like my first. Well, it wasn't my first promo, but it was my first promo as like the gangster kind of character.
Yeah, I'm
So
part of like a full live audience, so like that like must have been really
so it was like a last minute change where like I was thrown into the mat. Like I didn't even know I was supposed to wrestle. It was for the tournament for the women's title, and it was just like a non-title match. It was just like a filler match,
okay.
and it's because Natalie got injured, so she couldn't compete. So the announcer went on the PA, like the microphone, and was like, "Oh, Natalie sadly can't compete," and my music hit. Now
Oh, so
that
it's kind of been challenged type thing.
yeah, so that
And
promo was off my head. I didn't write it down. I didn't say nothing. I just went with whatever happened at that moment because he's like
that must
last minute.
that must have been really nerve wracking.
Because last minute he was like, okay, you're gonna do a promo, and I'm like, okay. So I went to months in promo class, and my promo teacher was telling me I was improving because I went from like a very shy. Because imagine in real life I'm very shy and quiet, and then my character's like, yo, bitch, like kind of thing. So it's like it's funny to see like the transitions of how much
Yeah.
I've changed throughout the years. But move forward to the promo. So I'm going out and then my music hits and like it pans to my face, and you could see my face, like you could see a little bit of nerves, but then like I'm trying to like play it off as like I don't give a
I just
shit.
imagine
So
the
like
camera pan just like.
so I'm just like, oh shit. So then I'm just like, I do like this thing, and then this worked because like people were like, oh shit, she's cool. So like, but and so I did this, and then it worked, so I kept it. So
Yeah.
then I did the promo, and then like I think some of the promo I was like, oh man, she's injured, and then they were like, well, I don't give a shit, I don't have a match, and then people were like, and then
Basically,
because
it's like I feel like when you swear when it's supposed to be kind of like a PG type thing, it's like that just gets people like really up there. Because I've seen a couple of your other things when you're talking about a match, like you're jaw jacking with some of the crowd and you call them fat ass or like, oh, what's up, bitch, or something like that. It's like, yeah, I could see that. It's like it really gets the crowd going. I feel like
well,
that's one of the things you were doing when you were a heel.
oh, being a heel was so fun. Panning to that story, there was actually I was so scared because like it was the tournament and like I wasn't used to being a heel, but then like I had to like my coach was telling me, okay, you need to like interact with the crowd more. You need to gain more character. So I was like, okay. So there was this guy that like always pissed me off through every single show. He's when I was a little heavier, he would be like, "Oh, you're fat" and stuff like that.
Damn.
So I was like, so I lost a little weight and I was feeling nice.
You're
So
feeling yourself.
I was feeling myself, and it was one match I was versus Smashley, and it was for the tournament. And
Mhm.
this guy just pissed me off. He was like, "You're fat. You can't wrestle." So then, like, I was like, I think I did like a hip toss or something. I was like, "What are you gonna do now, badass?" And then like he got cheese, and everyone was like, "Oh." And then after that, like every single move, I would do a move. I was like, "This is for you, fat ass." And then like he would get cheese. And then there was one part where I picked her up and I did like the world's
There's that
strongest slam.
flag, by the way.
So then I did the world's strongest slam, and I did. I'm like, "This is for you, fatty." And the man got up and he started taking off his jacket. He looked like he was gonna beat me up. And then I come back and Anthony's dying of laughter. He's like, that was the best performance I've ever seen from you. That was hilarious. And then like after that, I was okay with like jaw jacking and stuff, and it was
Just be
fun.
your character, you know, like you're trying to be like that gangster type feel, and it's just like you just talking shit to the to everyone in the crowd and just like not taking anyone's shit. It kind of fits your character because you have to be that tough bitch, you know.
Yeah.
So that works.
The only thing is that transitioning from starting out as a heel to being a baby face was so hard because my character drastically changed. So I went from like not taking any shit to like high fiving kids and like taking
Yeah. So it's
pictures.
like oh, you freaking fat ass, I fucking hate you, and all this shit, and it's just like, oh, hey kids, it's like,
Cause like when I was
what
a
the
heel,
fuck?
because when I was a heel, I would like flip the like I would basically do this, like I would flip off the crowd, or like I would basically like tip their hats off, or like stuff like that. It was like, and
So you're
then
just pretty much an asshole.
to basically transition from that to like people basically being like, "Hey Amy, can I get your autograph?" or like, "Hey Amy, can I get a picture?" It's like if I was a heel, I'd be like, "No, stay away from me." But as a baby face, like you transition where like you have to be a little softer because
Yeah.
like
Don't
it's
want to hurt the
hard.
things, you know.
Yeah.
When you're a heel, you can do it, and then like, you know.
But it was so hard because even when I was a heel, there would be little kids who would think I was cool that would want me to touch their hands, and I would have to like basically be like, "No." And to see their face, like there was one kid that was like this, and I looked at him, I'm like, and it was his face was like, and to like it made me sad, but like at the same time I was doing my job as well, so it's
Yeah.
like you gotta do what you have to do.
I can just imagine though, like you're swearing and stuff, like not touching the kids' hands, and then after every little match, when you turn face, you're just like, "Oh, hey guys, what's up?" Boom. It's like it's just such a switching character. But you see that
But
all the time, in, like the bigger companies. So it's like it's not really that like drastic. So anything else you want to say?
um not really, not that I know of. I think I've basically touched base on like majority of what I've
Actually, I
experienced.
have one more question for you. What do you think is your best match that you've ever wrestled?
I think my best match would have to be my last match that I wrestled, like March 14th, 2020. It was
That was at the
versus
head of the pandemic.
yeah, that was like the beginning of the pandemic. And I think that was my best match because it was the only match that I was able to call without
Hmm.
worrying, and where I had the most confidence because going in there I was the vet and the
Hmm.
person that I was facing was the rookie. So it basically gave me an opportunity to call things and to show how much I've learned throughout the years so I can give back to her and like make a good match. And then on top
Okay.
of that, my coach did say that it was one of the best matches of the night. So
That's always a good compliment to get
yeah,
from your coach.
yeah,
So yeah. So you say your last match is probably your best match.
yes. But
I mean,
I'm hoping,
yeah, of course. Of course, in the future you're gonna be like, oh, that was good, but it's like top 50 or something,
yeah.
So yeah, but I mean, like for now, because you're so young and that you have so much of a future ahead of you. You're just like, that's my peak so far. But it's pretty good for some type of peak, in my opinion. So yeah. So is that everything you'd like to say?
Well, since I started, like I did have a lot of accolades, like compared to like other people my age and stuff. So it's like,
Mac, go ahead.
I entered the Battle Rumble the first year that I started and got bitch slapped by Cadman. It's actually in a video
Oh,
page. It's actually video. I have video footage. If you want to go and check it out at Battle Arts Academy on their Instagram, you could see me get bitch slapped by Cadman. That's always fun.
that's a
Um,
good watch. I would I'd recommend.
Um, and then I also got to like, well, I was actually in there for a while, which was fun. And then I also won two battle royales where it was all guys. Where like the first one I won, and then the second one I won as well, obviously
Trust me.
too. So that's an accolade. Again, green belt in judo. I got to train with Toy for a bit, and then I also got to wrestle with Bets, and then I was like basically like I won the title, and
Hmm.
hopefully I could be like a multiple time champion. But I
How
hope that
many
there's
promotions have you wrestled for?
I wrestled. So let me see. I wrestled for Revolution, which is an all women's wrestling. It happens at Battle Arts Academy. I wrestled for Crossbody, which is another school in Kitchener. I
Okay.
wrestled for Wrestle Junction. It's a small owned business from a battle arts person,
I've seen
Andrew
their YouTube,
McCrae.
yep, YouTube
Um,
channel.
now that I wrestled multiple matches for Crossbody, I was supposed to wrestle for the championship at C at Crossbody until COVID happened. I was supposed to wrestle Alexei Nicole. I was
Oh,
also supposed to wrestle for CCW, but that never happened because of COVID. COVID's like a disaster; it just ruins everything. But yeah, and I was supposed to wrestle for. I'm actually signed at Revolution Women's Wrestling, so
so
hopefully
you're
when yes, I'm part of a roster. It's an all women's roster, but
wrestling for
hopefully
not wrestling for very long, to be honest. To be a part of a roster, have a championship reign already, wrestle for multiple different promotions, including Battle Arts. You didn't say Battle Arts.
and I wrestle for Battle Arts Pro, our small indie promotion, as well, and the
You for,
Rising Star shows.
I know it's already been said so much that it's not the first promotion in your head,
Yeah.
but still, like that literally is Battle Arts is probably the one that made your name the most by far.
Yes.
Like Anthony is probably the best person that you've ever been coached by, and everything
Yep.
because he's
For
probably
sure.
taught you the most.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anything else you'd like to say?
I think I touched base on majority of everything.
Yeah. So if you want to see more of Amy Crimson, you want to plug all your stuff. I'll plug them into the description.
Okay, so all of my matches,
Here
well,
we go.
majority of my matches are on YouTube. So if you click in Amy Crimson Wrestling, you'll probably find majority of the matches, probably from Revolution and Wrestle Junction and Crossbody and all those. If you want to follow me on Instagram, it's Amy Crimson XOXO. If you want to follow me on TikTok, it's Amy Crimson XOXO. And if you want to follow me on Twitter,
Hey, let me guess. Amy Crimson XOXO.
you got it. And then if you want to add me on Facebook, I rarely use Facebook, but it's my real name. It's Cassandra Alicia Jenner. And then I also have an Amy Crimson fan page if you guys want to follow and check out my stuff.
All right, so that's pretty much it for this podcast. And till next time, we out.